Rightio, just thought I'd do a quick little video, been a long time coming, showing our setup here. So I'll do like a little walk around of it first, show you how we're set up and why a few things are the way they are, and then I'll go through, just spray the soap on one of these containers and show you how it suds up and all that. So at the front we got our Kohler EFI, my favourite machine ever. One big pump on it. I'll go through the specs and comments if you really want, but yeah, not much to say about it. It's a big pressure cleaner, 4,000 psi, 27 litres a minute. Got a stainless tank here at the front. I can't remember, I think that's about 40 litres or something like that. So that one's hooked up to the hose reel at the front here. We've got about 100 metres, I think, maybe 91 actually. 45 odd metres of supply hose here. You can squeeze 50 on, but I cut 5 off just so that it was a little bit easier to roll on and off. At the back here, this second hose here, about 60 metres of high pressure, is hooked up to our second machine, which is a 21 3000. And here we have our 70 metres of Softwash hose. For a buffer tank, brake tank, we're just using a blue 44 gallon drum, mostly just because of needed something that took up a little bit less floor space as opposed to the square Ausstates tank that we had previously. In hindsight, if I had a bigger trailer to start with when we're building this, I would have gone a bigger tank. 200's probably the bare minimum for what we're running, and we do run into the occasional issue with flow, so next build I'll probably go a 400 litre tank, or I really don't like having a dual axle trailer, so I'm trying to avoid going down that route, otherwise I'll just have one of them on it. So moving on to the Softwash Pump, which I think most people are probably more interested in, because it is, I mean, bang for buck. I can't find something better. Not that I think price should be the deciding factor in anything you do, but I'm struggling to see the need to invest more money than this. These pumps cost you around 300 bucks. It'll shoot up to around 10 metres high if you don't have much of a breeze, or any breeze really. Realistically, if you've got a slight breeze, 2 stories about the limit, and obviously if it's windy you probably don't want to be working anyway because you're worried about where that drift is going. The way we've got it plumbed up here, our soap tank's in the back there. So I've got it plumbed up, if I can make this point down, so we can have it on a tap there. So at the moment it's drawing from the water tank and the soap tank is closed off. Just a matter of flicking them over and it'll draw from the soap tank. If I have them both open, which is really handy, as long as the water tank is full, the soap tank will fill up. So that's how I fill up at the start of each job. Just got to remember to turn them off, otherwise you overflow. And you can hear the ball valve kick in there too. Coming around to the other side, we've got the generator, chlorine drum storage, which I've got to tidy up a bit actually. Just a little toolbox there to hold the gear. And the other older pressure cleaner there, that is a 21 litre 3000 psi. Right, and just moving on now to the gun setup that we have, using the Bar ST 2300. Good gun, I think a lot of people use the same or similar. Seem to last ages, but more importantly the way I've got the lance set up. I think a lot of people normally run a quick connect there, or even just a straight shaft with no join. Fair enough, each to their own. I like this way because I can have a really short sort of setup like that for doing tight access between a house and say the neighbour's fence, or if I'm doing underneath the pergola, it's able to go right above my head if I need it to. Then it's just a case of swapping that out for that if I want to have a normal sort of lance length. Now the tips I'm using these for soap application, and also using these on the pressure cleaner. The reason I use them on the pressure cleaner is obviously those massive holes, they drop the pressure right down, but you're still getting full flow. Using the 0 tips, I can never remember which one until I plug it in. But I'm able to hit, you can hit 2-3 stories from the ground, and you're hitting with a decent amount of force. Depending on which machine I'm using, I do prefer to use this 27 litre 4000 machine. Although with these tips, the pressure is still reasonable. I would guess it's probably around 1200 psi. On the 21 litre a minute 3000 machine, it drops down to 800 psi, 900 psi on a couple of these tips, but everyone's a little bit different. And depending on, I get them from Nick at Softwash Australia, but depending on when I've ordered them, the actual specific sizing and angle has been slightly different. So I'm going to ask him for some specific ones next time, because this new set I really like for both machines. I think it's the perfect balance, and I also like it for the soap application, whereas my older set were a slightly different size. So I'll fill up this tank now, and I'll just do a little demo just on that container wall, and you can see how it sprays, I guess. Just while that's filling, thought I'd show you. So obviously you can hear it running into the 200 litre water tank, but it's filling the soap tank. I've got one of these little Gardena flow meters, I think they're called. You can get a few different brands. I think Holman do one as well. Bunnings have them, most hardwares and all that sort of jazz. Yeah, find it handy to work out if you're going to run into any issues with flow before you start the job. So I don't know if you'll be able to hear this over the generator, but with not much of an arc at all. This is sort of hitting 15 metres. Just pumping water through now. And straight up, you won't be able to see it, but I've measured the leaves with a laser distance measure at some point, and yeah, we'll hit 9 metres up without any issues. And if you're really desperate, you can sort of stand right under it, and you'll be able to get to around 10 or 11. But really, realistically, every day, 9 metres is about the limit with this setup. And yeah, this is the gun we're using, and those tips. I'm just flushing the water out now, but you can see the sort of coverage you get with this. Like, to do a wall, you're sort of like, yeah, you can just move really quickly, whereas when I used to have 12 volt, to move this fast would be unheard of. Even with a 20 litre a minute 12 volt, they just don't pump out at 20 litres a minute through the hose. They might do that out of the pump, but then you've got pressure drop, flow drop, whatever it is in the real world that you've got to deal with. So I reckon you can't have too much flow, because you know, you just move quicker. You just fan it and then move on to the next spot, let it sit. So I'm just going to flush out the water now and be able to see the soap. So the soap we mix up at 1 to 75. You can mix it at 1 to 50, but for most jobs it's going to be overkill. So here it is now coming through. And yeah, I'm not one of those blokes. I don't sort of think you need to have market eye or whatever. If I'm on a job, I just need to actually hit every square inch. I don't need it to be that obvious. At the end of the day, if it's wet, it means I've already sprayed it. If it's dry, then I need to hit it again. But yeah, it gives you an idea of the coverage using our soap and the speed you can move at using this pump I'm using. But I would like to try the P40, but like I said, bang for buck, I just don't see the need at the moment anyway. Just while I flush this out, if you're doing an eave, you run this nozzle. I mean, you can, I do walls with this as well, but it's a bit harder to get an even coverage. But you can just sort of hit that from the ground, soak the whole eave, and then when you flick it over to your pressure gun and using the same nozzle, you're sort of getting, depending on the machine you got, you're getting sort of 2 or 3 times that force on the actual eave, washing away the mould, dirt, cobwebs, dust, and whatever else you've got on there. And it does the best job, eh? Like, you can rinse with just this pump, but compared to a pressure cleaner and large tips, it's next level. And the rinsing, you know, I'll keep doing the video. I'll flick a pressure cleaner on and show you the rinsing with this nozzle as well, because it's insane. So I don't know how well you hear me, but I might voice this over afterwards. But so at the moment I've got the 2530 tip on, which is the lowest pressure on this set that I've got here, using the 27 litre a minute 4000 PSI machine. And this is the one we use most of the time. And you can see it's sort of almost like a touch-free car wash. And I love it because half the time that's as close as I need to get. If there's just grime, especially like barbecue grime, road grime, dirt, and pet sort of stuff, that's as close as I need to get. If there's you know, a mud wasp or something, then I'll come up and do that. But 9 times out of 10, back there and pretty much misting it off. And that whole side, if you imagine that's a house, that's a 20-foot shipping container, it's already rinsed, done, move on to the next spot. So we're moving fairly quickly, getting the job done faster and moving on to the next one. Obviously speed isn't everything, but as long as you're doing a good job, why wouldn't you want to do it quicker? And here to give you an idea of the next nozzle, this one's a 1520, that one's got quite a bit of force. I generally won't use that one up close like this, but even this one, if you've got a bad arm, I'm holding this one-handed, and there's a bit of force behind it, but I'll use this one for doing eaves and just missing them off. If the eave or gutter is like a double story and it needs a bit of hit, I'll move on to this one. So there's one of the zero tips. I don't actually know what size it is, but one of them I prefer to the other. Can never usually tell till I try both, but I'll just go back further. And you can sort of see the force that's hitting, and that'll do the same thing straight up. Once the soap and SH is soaked into the whatever's on the eave, this is all you need. And I know it can be a bit of a pain running two hoses, but it's also a bit of a pain waiting for the soap to flush through on your original hose when it goes time to rinse. So I've done it both ways. I've used just the pump to rinse, and I've used, you know, pressure cleaner to rinse and pump the soap, and it's the way I choose to do it. But, you know, as always, do what you want. More than one way to skin a cat.